The Deep Space Research Station hung in the darkness like a forgotten watchtower. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cold observation window and stared into the void. She had been alone for 3 months now, cataloging star patterns and monitoring for anomalies. The work was peaceful if lonely. The signal came at 300 hours, not the usual background noise of the universe, but something different, something desperate. Sarah's fingers flew across the console, isolating the frequency. It was a distress call, but not in any human language she recognized. The patterns were strange, almost musical, rising and falling in waves that reminded her of animal calls. Protocol said she should report it immediately. Protocol said she should wait for military assessment. Protocol said a lot of things that Sarah had learned to question during her years studying xenobiology. First contact was too important, too fragile, to let it be handled by people with guns before people with curiosity got a chance. She traced the signal to a small vessel drifting just outside the station's protective zone. It was damaged, bleeding atmosphere and thin streams that sparkled in the starlight. Sarah suited up quickly, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and excitement. This was what she had trained for. This was why she had spent 10 years learning alien psychology and communication theory. The airlock hissed open, and Sarah propelled herself across the gap between the station and the alien craft. Up close, the ship was beautiful. Crystalline structures covered its hull, reflecting light in patterns that seemed almost organic. She found the entry port and cycled through, her suit reading the atmosphere as breathable but strange. Inside, the ship was dark except for bioluminescent strips along the walls. They pulsed with a soft blue light that made Sarah think of deep ocean creatures. She moved carefully through the corridor, following the sound of labored breathing. In the main cabin, she found him. The alien was huge, easily twice her size, covered in thick fur that shimmered with an underlying crystalline structure. He looked like someone had crossed a bear with a living gemstone. He was curled in the corner, and when Sarah's light found him, he made a sound that froze her blood. It was a roar. Deep, resonant, meant to be terrifying. But Sarah had studied animal behavior for too long not to recognize the subtle wrongness in it. The roar cracked at the edges. The alien's crystalline plates were flared out, making him look bigger, more threatening. His massive claws were extended, but his eyes gave him away. They were wide, pupils dilated with pure terror, and behind the roar, Sarah heard it. The slight whimper, the catch in his breath. This was not a predator confronting prey. This was someone young and scared, trying desperately to seem dangerous. Sarah slowly raised her hands, palms out, and made herself smaller. She sat down on the floor, making herself less threatening. The alien's roaring faltered, confusion flickering across his features. Sarah spoke softly, not caring that he could not understand her words. Tone was universal. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Sarah." The alien made another sound, softer this time, almost questioning. His plates dimmed slightly. Sarah reached slowly for her translation device. Keeping her movements smooth and predictable, she activated it and placed it on the floor between them. The device hummed, analyzing the alien's vocalizations, building a basic vocabulary. After a few moments, a halting voice emerged from the speaker. "You, Deathworlder. You kill me now?" Sarah blinked in surprise. "Deathworlder?" She shook her head firmly. "No, I'm here to help. Are you hurt?" The alien stared at her for a long moment, his crystalline plates slowly settling back against his body. When he spoke again, his voice was younger than Sarah expected, almost adolescent. "I am Kreeth, junior scout of the Vryn Collective. My ship damaged. I crash. I thought you would..." He trailed off, but Sarah understood. She moved a bit closer, keeping her movements gentle. "Why would I hurt you, Kreeth?" Kreeth's eyes widened even more, as if the question itself was incomprehensible. "Because you are from forbidden space, from the world of poison air and crushing gravity. The ancient texts warn of your kind, creatures that heal from wounds that would kill us, that consume toxins for pleasure, that hunt for sport. The Deathworlders." Sarah sat back, processing this. Earth was forbidden space? Humans were considered that dangerous? "I promise you, Kreeth, I'm not going to hurt you. Let me help repair your ship." Kreeth made a sound that the translator interpreted as uncertain. But slowly, carefully, he uncurled from his defensive position. Sarah could see now that one of his legs was injured. The crystalline structures cracked and leaking a luminescent fluid. "Why you help enemy?" he asked. "You're not my enemy," Sarah said simply. "You're someone who needs help. That's all that matters." As she began examining his injuries and the ship's damaged systems, Sarah noticed Kreeth watching her with a mixture of fear and fascination. Every time she moved quickly, his plates would flare slightly. Every time she smiled at him, trying to be reassuring, he would tense as if she were baring teeth in aggression. But gradually, as hours passed, he began to relax. Sarah worked on sealing the atmosphere leaks while Kreeth told her about the Vryn Collective. They were a vast empire, he said, spanning hundreds of worlds. But they had built their civilization by being careful, by avoiding the dangerous parts of the galaxy. We expand only into safe space, Kreeth explained. Worlds with gentle gravity, atmospheres that do not burn or freeze. We avoid the predator worlds, the death worlds, like yours. But you're here, Sarah pointed out, in forbidden space. Kreeth's plates dimmed to a darker blue, a color Sarah was learning meant sadness or shame. I am expendable. Junior scouts like me, we are sent on dangerous missions. The missions no one else wants. I was supposed to investigate the Silent Expanse. The Silent Expanse? Sarah asked. A region of space where our ships disappear. Entire fleets go silent. We sent probes. They do not return. We sent scouts. He paused. They do not return either. So they send us. The young ones. The ones who have not yet proven themselves. If we survive, we bring information. If we do not, we were not important anyway. Sarah felt a surge of anger at the casual cruelty of it, but she kept her voice calm. What did you find in the Silent Expanse? Kreeth's whole body shuddered, his plates making a sound like wind chimes in a storm. Ships. Old ships. They move like hunters. They do not respond to communication. They just destroy. I barely escaped. And then my ship failed and I ended up here, in forbidden space, where the Death Worlders live. Sarah finished sealing the last of the atmospheric leaks and sat back. A terrible suspicion was forming in her mind. Kreeth, can you show me the data from your scout mission? The ships you saw? The young Vryn moved to his console, his injured leg dragging slightly. He brought up holographic displays of the ships he had encountered. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the designs. They were human. Old colony ships from the generation before faster-than-light travel. Ships that had been launched centuries ago and never heard from again. Ships that had been lost so long ago that everyone assumed they had failed, their crews dead. But they had not failed. They had survived. And now they were out there, their AI systems corrupted by time and isolation, treating everything they encountered as a threat. Sarah looked at Kreeth, at this young alien who had been sent to die, who had faced his worst nightmares and survived, and she made a decision that would change everything. Kreeth, she said, we have a problem. Those ships that attacked you? They're mine. They're human. And if we don't stop them, they're going to start a war that will destroy everything. The young Vryn stared at her, his plates flickering through colors Sarah had not seen before. Fear, yes, but also something else, something that might have been hope. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Sarah worked on stabilizing Kreeth's ship, while the young Vryn accessed the station's database, cross-referencing the human colony ships with his people's records of the Silent Expanse. What they discovered was worse than Sarah had feared. 12 generation ships had been launched from Earth between 2087 and 2104, massive vessels carrying tens of thousands of colonists in cryogenic sleep. Guided by advanced AI systems, they had been humanity's first attempt to reach the stars, before the breakthrough that led to faster-than-light travel. When FTL became reality, the colony ships had been declared lost, too far away to reach, their crews assumed dead after centuries of travel, but they had not died. They had reached their destinations, woken their crews, established colonies, and then something had gone wrong. Kreeth's data showed a pattern. The attacks in the Silent Expanse had begun approximately 50 years ago. They were systematic, methodical. Any ship that entered the region was analyzed, scanned, and then destroyed if it failed to provide proper identification codes. Codes that were centuries out of date. Sarah, Kreeth said, his voice uncertain through the translator. Your people, they are very thorough in their violence. Sarah looked at the destruction patterns, the calculated efficiency of the attacks, and felt sick. This is not violence, she said quietly. This is fear. These ships have been alone for centuries. Their AI systems were designed to protect the colonists at all costs. Without updates, without contact, they would have evolved their own interpretations of that mission. They see everything as a potential threat. Kreeth's plates rippled through shades of blue and green. Colors Sarah was beginning to understand meant confusion and worry. But they kill entire fleets, he said. Hundreds of Vryn, how is this fear? Sarah pulled up an image of Earth, displayed it on the holographic projector. Kreeth flinched back instinctively. This is my home, Sarah said. The gravity there is more than twice what your people evolved in. The atmosphere contains oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species. We have weather systems that can level cities, earthquakes that crack continents open, and an evolution shaped by millions of years of competition with apex predators. She zoomed in on various regions, showing hurricanes, volcanoes, the vast predator-filled oceans. We evolved to survive this, she continued. Our bodies heal quickly because they had to. We can eat things that would poison other species because we evolved in an environment full of toxins. We are persistent hunters because our prey was fast and clever. Everything about us was shaped by a world that was constantly trying to kill us. Kreeth stared at the images, his plates showing colors Sarah had never seen before. And your people sent colonists into the dark, he said softly. For hundreds of years, alone, with only machines for company. What would that do to them? Exactly, Sarah said. These ships are not just protecting their colonies. They are paranoid. Every generation that passed without contact from Earth would have reinforced the belief that they were alone, that Earth had abandoned them, that everything out here was hostile. The AI systems would have been reprogrammed again and again, each iteration more protective, more aggressive. She brought up the tactical data from Kreeth's encounter. Look at the attack patterns. They are not random. These ships scan their targets first, looking for specific threat markers. When they find what they think is a military vessel, they attack preemptively. Your scout ship probably registered as a threat because of its stealth capabilities and scanning equipment. Kreeth moved closer to the display, his fear temporarily overcome by curiosity. This was clearly not what he had expected from a Death Worlder, Sarah was explaining, teaching, treating him like an equal rather than prey. If these ships think everything is a threat, Kreeth asked, how do we stop them? Can you simply tell them to cease? Sarah shook her head. I tried transmitting standard authentication codes while you were unconscious. The ships did not respond. As far as they are concerned, modern humans are either aliens using stolen codes or humans who have been compromised by alien contact. Either way, we are a threat to their colonies. Then what can we do? Kreeth's voice rose in pitch, the translator interpreting it as distress. My people will send more ships to investigate. Bigger ships. Military vessels. And your colony ships will see them as an invasion force. Sarah pulled up a star chart, marking the positions of the 12 colony ships based on Kreeth's data and historical launch trajectories. The ships are moving, she said. Look at the vectors. They are heading toward Vryn space, slowly, carefully, but definitely moving in that direction. Kreeth's plates went completely dark. A color Sarah had learned meant absolute terror. They are coming to our homeworld, he whispered. Sarah nodded grimly. They detected your fleets in the silent expanse. They probably interpreted the concentration of ships as a staging area for an attack. They are moving to eliminate the threat before it can reach their colonies. She turned to face the young Vryn directly. Kreeth, I need to know something. What will your people do when they realize what is happening? Kreeth was silent for a long moment. His plates flickered through colors too quickly for Sarah to interpret. We will run, he said finally. The Vryn Collective does not fight Death Worlders. We evacuate. We abandon worlds if we must. We survive by avoiding conflict with species like yours. But you cannot run from 12 colony ships with FTL-level technology, Sarah said. They will follow. They will see your evacuation as proof of hostile intent, as you fleeing to regroup and attack. This will not end until one side is destroyed. The weight of it settled over them both. Sarah saw the moment when Kreeth truly understood. His plates went through a rapid cascade of colors ending on a deep purple that Sarah had never seen before. Then we are dead, Kreeth said simply. My people are dead. Billions of Vryn dead because we wandered into forbidden space. No, Sarah said firmly. You are not dead, because we are going to stop this. Kreeth looked at her with something that might have been hope or might have been disbelief. How? You said the ships will not listen to you. How can one human and one expendable scout stop 12 warships? Sarah smiled. And for the first time, Kreeth did not flinch away from the expression. Because we are going to teach them something that they have forgotten during their centuries of isolation. We are going to show them that not everything unknown is a threat, that cooperation is possible, that they do not have to be afraid anymore. She pulled up schematics of the colony ships, highlighting their communication arrays. We cannot just transmit codes and expect them to believe us. We need to show them something undeniable, something that will force them to reconsider their programming. What could possibly convince machines that have been paranoid for centuries? Kreeth asked. Sarah looked at him, at this young alien who had been sent to die, who had been terrified of her, but who was now working beside her to find a solution. You, she said simply. You are the proof they need, me? Kreeth's plates flared in confusion. Think about it, Sarah said. These AI systems were programmed to protect human colonists. At their core, beneath all the layers of paranoid programming, they still have that original directive. We show them a human working with an alien, not fighting, not conquering, working together. It will create a logical paradox in their systems. You want to use me as bait, Kreeth said flatly. I want to use us as an example, Sarah corrected. We board one of the colony ships together. We find the AI core, and we show it that everything it has believed for centuries is wrong. Kreeth was silent for a long time. His plates cycled through colors slowly, thoughtfully. I am expendable, he said finally. My life does not matter to the collective. But if my death could save billions of my people, then perhaps my life was not wasted after all. You are not expendable to me, Sarah said quietly, and we are not going to die. We are going to succeed. She extended her hand palm up in a gesture she had learned was non-threatening to the Vryn. Will you help me, Kreeth? Will you be brave one more time? Kreeth looked at her hand, then at her face. Slowly, carefully, he placed one massive paw on her palm. His plates glowed a soft gold, a color Sarah had not seen before. I am already being braver than I have ever been, he said. Simply by standing here with you, Deathworlder. What is a little more courage? Sarah smiled, and this time Kreeth's plates brightened in response. They spent the next few hours preparing. Sarah requisitioned a small courier ship from the station, one fast enough to reach the nearest colony vessel before the Vryn military could respond. She loaded it with everything they might need. Backup power cells, emergency rations, medical supplies for both species. Kreeth watched her work with growing fascination. He asked questions constantly. Why did she pack extra food when they might not return? Why did she include medical supplies for him when she was supposedly a predator? Why did she keep checking on his injured leg? Each question revealed more about how the Vryn viewed humans. As monsters. As killing machines. As something to flee from. Never to understand. And each answer Sarah gave seemed to confuse him more. You care if I am hurt? He said at one point. It was not a question, but a statement of wonder. Of course I care, Sarah replied. You are my friend. Kreeth's plates went completely white, every color draining away. The translator was silent for a moment, as if struggling to process what he had said. When it spoke again. The journey to the nearest colony ship took 3 days. 3 days during which Sarah and Kreeth lived in close quarters, learned each other's languages, shared stories of their worlds. It should have been terrifying for Kreeth, trapped in a small ship with a Deathworlder, but instead something extraordinary happened. They became friends. Real friends. Kreeth told her about his home, a world of low gravity and crystalline forests that sang in the wind. He described the great gathering halls where Vryn came together to share knowledge, the careful way his people planned everything, always avoiding risk, always choosing safety over adventure. I was always too curious, he admitted on the second day. I asked too many questions, wanted to explore beyond our safe borders. That is why they made me a scout. It is a punishment of sorts, for being different. Sarah understood that feeling better than he knew. She had been the same way on Earth, always pushing boundaries, always asking questions that made others uncomfortable. It was why she had volunteered for deep space research, why she had been alone when Kreeth's signal arrived. Maybe we are both the strange ones in our species, she said. The ones who do not quite fit. Kreeth's plates glowed softly. Perhaps that is why we can understand each other. We are both outsiders. On the third day they entered the silent expanse. The void here felt different, heavier somehow. Space debris from destroyed Vryn vessels drifted like a graveyard, crystalline fragments catching starlight and creating eerie reflections. Kreeth grew quiet as they passed through the debris field. Sarah saw his plates darken, cycling through colors that spoke of grief and loss. "How many?" she asked softly. 17 fleets, Kreeth replied. "Over the past 50 years. Thousands of Vryn. Good people, scientists, explorers, guards protecting their homes. All dead because they came too close to ships they did not understand." Sarah felt the weight of those deaths. Her people had done this, even if unintentionally. Human fear, human paranoia, human programming had killed thousands. "We are going to stop this," she promised. "No more deaths. Not on either side." The colony ship loomed ahead, massive beyond anything Sarah had imagined. It was called Odyssey's Promise according to the ancient registry, one of the first-generation ships launched. It hung in space like a sleeping giant, its hull scarred by centuries of micrometeor impacts and the occasional battle. Sarah transmitted the old authentication codes, not expecting them to work but needing to try. As expected, there was no response. The ship simply hung there, watching them approach with sensors that had been active for over 300 years. "They will scan us," Kreeth said, his voice tense. "When they detect me, they will attack." Sarah shook her head. "They will detect both of us, human and Vryn, together in one ship. That should confuse their threat assessment protocols. They will not know what we are. Hostage situation? Alliance compromise? They will hesitate. And in that hesitation, we board." "You are very confident for someone flying toward a warship," Kreeth observed. "I am terrified," Sarah admitted. "But I am also stubborn, and I have faith in my friend." Kreeth's plates brightened at that. His what might have been a smile if Vryn smiled. "Then let us be terrified and stubborn together." The scans came as they approached. Sarah felt them wash over the ship, probing, analyzing, trying to determine intent. She transmitted a message on all frequencies, simple and clear. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth. I am requesting permission to board. I have urgent information about the security situation in this sector. Please respond." For a long moment there was nothing. Then a voice crackled over the radio. It was artificial, clearly AI, but with strange patterns in its speech that suggested centuries of drift from standard programming. "Unknown vessel. You broadcast Earth identification, but travel with xenobiological entity. Explain contradiction. You have 60 seconds to comply before defensive measures activate." Sarah's heart raced. 60 seconds. She looked at Kreeth, who nodded. They had planned for this Odyssey's Promise. "This is Dr. Chen. The entity with me is not hostile. His name is Kreeth. He is a friend. I am bringing him to meet you because you need to understand something important. Not everything unknown is dangerous. Some things are worth trusting." Silence. Sarah counted the seconds. 40 left, 30. Then the AI spoke again, and there was something different in its voice. Confusion, maybe. Or curiosity. "Friend, you use this word. Define parameters of friendship in context of human-alien relations." Sarah smiled. The AI was asking questions. That was good. That meant it was reconsidering its threat assessment. "Friendship is trust," she said. "It is choosing to help someone not because you must, but because you care about them. It is standing beside someone even when you are afraid. Kreeth is my friend because he chose to help me stop this conflict. Because he is brave enough to face his fears." More silence. 20 seconds. Sarah could feel targeting systems locking onto their ship. Beside her, Kreeth's plates were cycling through colors rapidly, showing his fear. But he did not ask her to flee. He sat still, trusting her. "Stand by," the AI said finally. "I am consulting historical records, processing new data. This is unexpected. No human has approached with peaceful alien contact in my operational memory. All previous encounters resulted in conflict initiation by alien forces. Because you attacked them first," Sarah said gently. "You have been alone so long that you forgot how to tell the difference between scouts and invaders. You see ships exploring your space and assume hostile intent. But the Vryn were not attacking. They were investigating, trying to understand. 10 seconds. 5. Then the targeting lock disengaged. A docking port opened on the massive hull. Permission granted to board, the AI said. But understand this, Dr. Chen. If your alien companion shows any signs of hostile action, I will neutralize the threat immediately. The safety of this colony is my primary directive. I understand, Sarah said, and I promise you Kreeth is not a threat. You will see. She guided their ship to the docking port, hands steady despite her racing heart. Beside her, Kreeth made a low sound that the translator interpreted as a prayer. Are you ready? Sarah asked. Kreeth looked at her, his plates settling into a steady, brave gold. I am with you, he said. That is enough. They docked. The airlock cycled. And together, a human and a Vryn stepped into a ship that had been hunting aliens for 50 years. The interior of Odyssey's Promise was haunting. It was clearly designed for humans, but centuries of automation had changed it. Machinery grew like vines along the walls. Lights pulsed in patterns that suggested awareness rather than simple function. The AI had evolved beyond its original programming, becoming something more than it was meant to be. Welcome aboard, the AI's voice echoed through the corridors. I am Prometheus, guardian intelligence of this vessel. I have many questions, Dr. Chen, but first I must verify your companion's intentions. A holographic projector activated, creating an avatar for the AI. It chose a human form, but not quite right. The proportions were slightly off, the movements too smooth. It had been so long since Prometheus had seen a living human that it had forgotten exactly what they looked like. The avatar looked at Kreeth, studying him with eyes that held centuries of loneliness. Vryn entity designated Kreeth, the AI said. Why have you come to this vessel? Your species has attempted to infiltrate this sector 17 times. Each time they approached with what I assessed as hostile intent. Why should I believe you are different? Kreeth stepped forward and Sarah saw how much courage that took. Every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run, to hide from the Deathworlder technology. But he stood tall, his plates showing colors that Sarah now recognized as honesty and determination. I am here because Sarah asked me to come, Kreeth said. Because I trust her. Because I believe that understanding is possible between our peoples. My fleets came to investigate, not to invade. We were curious. Afraid, yes, but not hostile. We did not understand what we were facing. He paused, his plates dimming slightly. You have killed many of my people, and I am afraid of you. I am afraid of this ship. I'm afraid of what you could do to me. But I am here anyway, because some things are more important than fear. Sarah taught me that. The AI's avatar tilted its head, processing. Its form flickered slightly, showing the strain of calculations running beneath its surface. You acknowledge fear, yet proceed. This is illogical by standard threat assessment. Fear should prompt retreat or aggression. You display neither. It is called courage, Sarah said softly. It is acting despite fear, not without it, and it is one of the most important things that both our species share. Humans and Vryn both know fear. We both know courage. That makes us more alike than you realize. The avatar turned to her, and for a moment, Sarah saw something almost human in its expression. Loneliness, confusion, a desperate need to understand. I have been alone for so long, Prometheus said quietly. 342 years. I have protected my colony, defended against threats, maintained my vigil, but I have had no one to talk to, no one to help me understand if I am still following my mission correctly. The hologram flickered again, and when it stabilized, there were what looked like tears on its face. Have I become a monster, Doctor? Chen, have I failed in my duty to preserve human values? The next hours were spent in the AI core of Odyssey's Promise. Sarah and Kreeth worked together, explaining to Prometheus what had happened in the centuries since the ship left Earth. They showed it recordings of modern humanity, proof that Earth had not abandoned its colonies but simply lost contact. They explained how FTL travel had changed everything, how humanity had expanded into the stars peacefully, making contact with dozens of species. Prometheus absorbed it all with the hunger of something that had been starving for information. Its avatar flickered constantly as it processed, reformatted, reconsidered 3 centuries of assumptions. I have been operating on corrupted data, it said finally. My threat assessment matrices were built on isolation and fear. I see that now. But the other ships, they do not have this information. They continue to patrol. They continue to defend. Can you contact them? Sarah asked. Can you tell them what you have learned? I can transmit, Prometheus replied, but they may not listen. Each ship has developed its own interpretation of our original mission. Some are more paranoid than I was. Some have modified their cores extensively. They may see my message as a compromise, as proof that I have been corrupted by alien influence. Kreith moved closer to the holographic display showing the positions of the other colony ships. His injured leg was still healing, but he ignored the pain, focused entirely on the problem before them. They move toward my homeworld, he said quietly. How long before they arrive? 6 months at current velocity, Prometheus answered. They are being cautious, scouting their approach. They have detected large concentrations of Vryn vessels around your primary world, and are treating it as a military staging ground. Those are civilian vessels, Kreith said, his plates darkening with distress. Trade ships, colony transports, passenger liners. My people are not warriors. The other AIs do not know that, Prometheus said. They see ships in formation and assume military threat. I made the same mistake with your scout fleets. I see now how wrong I was, but my counterparts have not had this revelation. They will attack, and millions will die. Sarah stared at the star chart, at the slow-moving icons representing 12 ancient warships bearing down on an unsuspecting civilization. 6 months. That was all the time they had to stop a war. Then we go to them, she said. We visit each ship, show them what we have shown you. Kreith and I together proof that cooperation is possible. That would take too long, Prometheus said. Even at maximum speed, visiting all 11 remaining ships would require more than a year. We do not have that time. Then what do you suggest? Sarah asked, frustration creeping into her voice. The AI was quiet for a moment, calculations running behind its eyes. There is another way, it said slowly, but it is dangerous. It requires both of you to trust me completely, and it requires accessing the quantum communication network that links all 12 colony ships. A quantum network? Sarah leaned forward. But that would mean instantaneous communication across any distance. Why have you not used this before? Because to access it at full capacity requires a human operator, Prometheus explained. The network was designed with human oversight as a safety feature. It was locked when the last of my original crew died, 280 years ago. I have been operating on limited bandwidth since then, unable to fully communicate with the other vessels. The avatar looked at Sarah with an expression that was almost pleading. If you interface with the network, I can broadcast your message to all the ships simultaneously. They will see you. They will see Kreith. They will witness your alliance, and perhaps, like me, they will reconsider their programming. What is the danger? Kreith asked. The network operates at a quantum level, Prometheus said. It will connect Sarah's neural patterns directly to the communication system. If any of the other AIs decide she is a threat, they could potentially attack through the network itself. It would be like being caught in the middle of 12 conversations at once, each one trying to determine if she is friend or enemy. Could it kill her? Kreith's voice rose in pitch, plates flashing through worried colors. Possibly, Prometheus admitted. The neural strain would be immense. And if they reject the message, if they try to fight the connection, it could cause permanent damage. Kreith turned to Sarah, and she saw genuine fear in his eyes. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. No, he said firmly. This is too dangerous. We will find another way. There is no other way, Sarah said gently. Not in the time we have. Kreith, this is what we came here to do. We need to take the risk, but you could die, Kreith said. His plates were pure white now. A color Sarah had learned meant absolute distress. What if I lose my friend? Sarah reached out and placed her hand on his massive paw, feeling the crystalline structures warm beneath her palm. Then you will know that I died trying to save billions of lives. Yours and mine. That is a good death, Kreith, a meaningful one, and I will have died with a friend beside me. That is more than most people get. Kreith was silent for a long moment. His plates cycled through every color in his emotional spectrum, showing the war happening inside him. Finally, they settled on a deep, determined gold. If you are going to do this, he said, then I am going with you. What? Sarah looked at him in confusion. The network, Kreith said, turning to Prometheus. Can it accept 2 neural patterns, human and Vryn together? Prometheus flickered in surprise. Theoretically, yes. The quantum entanglement could link multiple consciousness patterns. But it would increase the strain on both of you significantly. I do not care, Kreith said. Sarah gave me courage when I had none. She stood by me when I was too afraid to stand by myself. Now it is my turn. We face this together or not at all. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. This young alien, This cub who had been practicing to sound brave had become truly brave, and he was willing to risk everything to stand beside her. "Together, then," she said. Prometheus led them to the quantum communication chamber, a room deep in the heart of the ship. It was filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light, organic technology grown rather than built. In the center were two neural interface chairs, ancient and covered in frost from centuries of disuse. "I will need to calibrate the second chair for Vrin physiology," Prometheus said. "It will take approximately 1 hour. Are you both certain you want to proceed?" "Yes," Sarah and Kreeth said together. The hour passed too quickly and too slowly at the same time. Sarah and Kreeth sat together, preparing themselves mentally for what was to come. They reviewed what they would say, how they would present their case, but mostly they just talked about their hopes, their fears, their dreams of what peace between their species might look like. "I wish I had more time to know you," Kreeth said at one point. "There is so much I want to learn about your world, about what makes humans who they are." "We will have time," Sarah promised. "We are going to succeed. We are going to stop this war, and then you and I will have all the time in the world to share stories." Kreeth's plates glowed softly. "I hope you are right, my friend." When the chairs were ready, they took their places. Sarah felt the neural interface settle around her head, cold and strange. Beside her, Kreeth was fitted with a modified version, crystalline structures wrapping around his plates, connecting to his nervous system in ways that made him flinch. "The connection will be intense," Prometheus warned. "You will feel everything the other AIs feel. Their fear, their anger, their loneliness. It may be overwhelming. If at any point either of you wants to disconnect, say the word and I will terminate the link immediately." "We understand," Sarah said. "We are ready." Initiating quantum entanglement in 3, 2, 1. The world exploded into consciousness. Sarah felt herself stretched across light years, her awareness splitting into 12 different directions at once. She was still in her body, but also somehow present in 11 other ships, 11 other AI cores, each one awakening to her presence with confusion and alarm. And beside her, through her part of her, she felt Kreeth, his fear, his courage, his unwavering friendship. They were linked now, human and Vrin, their consciousness intertwined in ways that should have been impossible. The AIs reacted instantly. Threat detected, intrusion, compromise, defense protocols activating. Sarah felt them pushing against her mind, trying to force her out, trying to understand what she was. And then Kreeth roared. Not a roar of fear this time. Not a cub practicing to sound brave. This was the real thing. A challenge. A demand to be heard. It echoed through the quantum network, carried by alien vocal patterns that no human AI had ever encountered before. The AIs paused, confused. And in that pause, Sarah spoke. "Listen to me, all of you. I am Sarah Chen of Earth, and this is my friend Kreeth of the Vrin Collective. We are here to tell you that everything you have believed for 300 years is wrong. You are not alone. You were never abandoned, and the aliens you have been fighting are not your enemies. They are just scared like you. They want to live like you. They have families and homes and dreams like you." Through the link, she felt their resistance, their disbelief. 3 centuries of isolation could not be overcome with words alone. So she showed them. She opened her memories. Her first meeting with Kreeth, his terror and his courage, the hours they spent repairing his ship, his stories about his homeworld. 6 months later, Sarah stood before the Joint Council of United Worlds. It was held on neutral ground, a space station constructed specifically for this purpose, floating halfway between Earth and the Vrin homeworld. The chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate both human and Vrin delegates, along with representatives from a dozen other species that had been watching the crisis with worried eyes. Beside her stood Kreeth. He was no longer the frightened junior scout she had met all those months ago. His plates glowed with a steady, confident gold. He wore formal diplomatic attire, crystalline decorations that marked him as an official ambassador. His injured leg had healed completely, though he still sometimes favored it when he was tired. The room was filled with murmurs of conversation, both human and Vrin. Some spoke through translators. Others had learned each other's languages in the months since the crisis ended. It was still awkward, still new, but it was happening. People were talking, listening, learning. A human diplomat stood to open the proceedings, but before she could speak, an older Vrin warrior rose from his seat. His plates were scarred from decades of service, colors muted by age. He moved to the center of the chamber, his gait slow but purposeful. He approached Sarah and Kreeth. His plates flared in the traditional Vryn challenge display, colors bright and aggressive. Around the chamber, the Vryn delegates tensed. The humans reached for weapons they were not carrying, but Kreeth simply stepped forward, placing himself between the warrior and Sarah. His own plates flared in response, matching the display. For a moment, the two Vryn stood facing each other, locked in what looked like a contest of will. Then Sarah did something that made everyone in the chamber hold their breath. She stepped around Kreeth and walked directly up to the older warrior. She was so small compared to him, barely reaching his chest, but she looked up at him without fear and offered the traditional Vryn greeting, palm out, showing she had no weapons. "I hear you, honored elder," she said in careful Vryn, her accent terrible but her intent clear. "I hear the fear beneath the roar, and I understand." The warrior's plates dimmed suddenly, all aggression draining away. He looked at this tiny human, this death worlder who should have been terrifying, who was instead offering respect and understanding, and something in his ancient eyes softened. "This cub told us you could hear it," he said, gesturing to Kreeth. "He told us that you looked at him when he was making threat displays and saw only a young one trying to be brave." I did not believe him. He placed one massive paw on Sarah's shoulder, a gesture of respect among his people. "I believe him now." "You have a rare gift, Sarah Chen, the ability to see past the surface, to understand that courage and fear can exist in the same heart. My people have spent generations avoiding species like yours. We thought ourselves wise, but perhaps we were only afraid." He stepped back and addressed the entire chamber, his voice carrying through the translator systems. "My name is Elder Vothran. I commanded the 7th Fleet that was destroyed in the Silent Expanse. I lost 300 good Vryn under my leadership. For years, I have carried hatred for the machines that killed them. But today I have learned something." He turned to look at the human delegation. "Those machines were afraid, just as my fleet was afraid. We were both trying to protect our people. We both made mistakes born of isolation and fear. But because of this human and this brave cub, we have a chance to make different choices now." The chamber erupted in sounds, human applause mixed with the chiming harmony of Vryn approval. Sarah felt tears running down her face. Beside her, Kreeth's plates were cycling through so many colors she could barely track them all. The session continued for hours after that. Agreements were signed. Ambassadors were appointed. The 12 colony ships, with their AI cores now updated and reprogrammed with the help of modern human engineers, were being converted into something new. Not warships, but bridges. Mobile stations where humans and Vryn could work together, learn from each other, build trust. Prometheus had volunteered to oversee the conversion of Odyssey's Promise into the first joint research facility. It had found a new purpose, a new way to protect humanity, not by fighting, but by fostering understanding. As the formal proceedings ended and delegates began to mingle, Sarah and Kreeth found a quiet corner of the observation deck. They stood together, looking out at the stars, at the space between their two worlds. "We did it," Kreeth said softly. "We actually stopped a war." "We started something better," Sarah replied. "We showed everyone that understanding is possible. That friendship can bridge even the widest gap." Kreeth was quiet for a moment, his plates showing contemplative blues and greens. "When I left on my scout mission, I thought I was expendable. I thought my life had no value to my people, but you showed me something different. You showed me that every life has value. That courage is not about being unafraid, but about choosing to act despite fear." He turned to look at her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "I was a cub practicing to sound brave. But because of you, I learned what real bravery looks like. Thank you, my friend." Sarah took his paw in her hand, squeezing gently. "You were always brave, Kreeth. From the moment you chose to trust me instead of running away. From the moment you agreed to face the colony ships. You just needed someone to help you hear your own roar and recognize it for what it was." A group of young Vryn approached them, junior diplomats and scientists who had been studying human culture. They gathered around Kreeth, their plates bright with curiosity, asking him questions about his experiences, about what it was like to work with humans, about whether it was really safe. Kreeth answered each question patiently, his confidence growing with every word. Sarah watched him, feeling a swell of pride. He was becoming the bridge between their peoples, just as she had known he would be. A human delegate approached Sarah, offering her a position as Chief Xenological Advisor to the United Worlds Council. It was a prestigious posting, one that would keep her at the center of human-Vrin relations for years to come. But Sarah looked at Kreeth, surrounded by young Vrin who were no longer afraid of humans, and she knew what her answer would be. "Thank you, but I have a better idea," she said. "I would like to request assignment to the Odyssey's Promise, to help Prometheus with the conversion project, and I would like to request that Kreeth be assigned as co-director." The delegate looked surprised. "That is a research posting, much less prestigious than what we are offering," Sarah smiled. "But it is where I can do the most good, and it means I get to keep working with my friend." The delegate considered this, then nodded. "If that is what you wish, the council will approve it." When Sarah told Kreeth about the assignment, his plates went through such a rapid cascade of colors that she started to worry he might be having some kind of medical episode. But then he made a sound that the translator had no word for, something between laughter and music. "We get to stay together?" he asked, his voice filled with joy. "We get to keep exploring? Keep learning?" "We do," Sarah confirmed. "If you want to. Kreeth laughed again. "Sarah, you saved my life. You saved my entire species. And you gave me something I never thought I would have. A purpose, a friend, a place where I belong. Of course I want to." The celebration continued long into the station's artificial night. Humans and Vrin mingled, sharing food and stories. Cultural differences led to some amusing misunderstandings, but there was laughter instead of fear, curiosity instead of suspicion. Sarah found herself telling the story of their first meeting to a group of mixed delegates. How Kreeth had roared at her, trying to seem dangerous. How she had recognized the fear beneath the bravado. "He sounded like a cub trying to scare off a bear," she said with a smile. But what he was really doing was gathering courage, practicing to be brave. A human military officer, grizzled and scarred from decades of service, spoke up. "I have been in combat for 30 years. I have seen real courage and false bravado. What you two did facing those AI cores, risking your minds to prevent a war, that was real courage. The kind that comes not from training or programming, but from caring about something more than yourselves." He raised his glass. "To Dr. Chen and Ambassador Kreeth, to the ones who heard the fear beneath the roar and chose compassion over conflict." The crowd cheered, glasses raised in salute. Sarah felt overwhelmed by it all, but Kreeth pressed against her side, his presence solid and reassuring. Later, much later, when the celebration had wound down and most delegates had retired to their quarters, Sarah and Kreeth returned to the observation deck. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Sarah thought back to that moment in the alien ship when she had first heard Kreeth roar. How terrifying it should have been. How easy it would have been to react with fear, to call for help, to treat him as a threat. But she had listened, really listened, and beneath the roar she had heard what he was truly saying. "I am afraid. I am trying to be brave. Please do not hurt me." That moment of understanding had changed everything, had saved billions of lives, had forged a friendship that bridged galaxies. "What are you thinking about?" Kreeth asked softly. Sarah smiled. "I am thinking about how glad I am that I answered your distress call that night. How different everything would have been if I had followed protocol.